Welcome to Gamers Chess Club online chess lessons. My name is Jason and this is the first lesson in the Introduction to Chess series. Gamers Chess Club is a recreational chess club out of Conroe, Texas that's focused on introducing chess to families in a fun and friendly environment. For more information, you can email us at gamerschessclub@gmail.com or visit the Facebook page at www.facebook.com/gamerschessclub. Okay, for today's learning objectives, we're going to talk about a few chess facts. We're going to discuss the design and proper orientation of the chessboard, the names of the chess pieces, the value of the chess pieces, and the starting squares for the chess pieces. Okay, for our chess facts, is chess a game of chance? The answer is no, chess is pure skill. So unlike a card game where there's a mixture of luck and skill in some card games, or a game involving a dice roll where you have an element of luck there or an element of chance, chess doesn't have that at all. Each player has the same opportunities from the start of the game, and whoever makes the best moves wins the game. Okay, and the object of a chess game, so unlike a game like checkers where the object is to capture all of your opponent's pieces and you don't win until they're all captured, in chess it doesn't really matter how many pieces you capture. The ultimate object is that you trap the enemy king. So you can actually win a chess game with less pieces than your opponent if you've met this requirement. You have to trap the enemy king. So trapping the enemy king is called checkmate, and we'll talk about that in a future lesson. So how do you decide who goes first? The important thing here is to know that the white pieces always move first. Deciding who plays with the white pieces can be determined in different ways. You can flip a coin. You can just, decide among each other, take turns, things like that. And can you take back a move in chess? The answer is no. Once your hand leaves a piece, your turn is over. In fact, once your hand touches a piece with the intention of moving it, it must be moved if a legal move is possible. So onto the board and the pieces. Okay, the chessboard is made up of 64 squares. That's 8 by 8. And when you sit down to play a game of chess, you want to make sure that on both you and your opponent have a white square on the right, in your right corner. So right here at what we call H1, and right here what we call A8, because the opponent will be sitting over here and you will be sitting here. And so always make sure that both of you have a white square on the right. If you have a dark square on the right, it means that your board is sideways. So chessboard is divided into ranks and files. The files are here. This is called the A file. This is called the B file, the C file, all the way to the H file. And going side to side, we call those ranks. This is the first rank, the second rank, all the way to the 8th rank. Your board may or may not have these labeled ranks and files, and that's okay. We'd still talk about them in terms of ranks and files, and you would still always have a white square on your right, both you and your opponent. Okay, now we're going to discuss the pieces. This first piece we're going to talk about is the pawn. This is the shortest piece in your set. You should have 16 of them. You should have 8 light-colored and 8 dark-colored pawns. The next piece we're going to talk about looks like a horse. And some people refer to it as a horse, but it's actually called a knight. And you should have 4 of these in your set, 2 light-colored, 2 dark. The next piece is called a bishop. The bishop, you again should have 4 of those in your set, 2 light color, 2 dark color. This is called, this one that looks like a castle is called a rook. So we want to refer to that as a rook. And you should have 4 of these as well, 2 light colored, 2 dark. The next piece may or may not look, it's not going to look just like this in your set. We'll go ahead and put the next 2 pieces out there so you can see you've got a king and a queen. With the queens, you should have 2 in your set, one of each color, but you may have, sometimes your set will come with an extra queen. So sometimes you'll have 2 light colored queens and 2 dark colored queens. And then in your set for the kings, usually the tallest piece in your set, you should only have 2 for sure. There should be no reason to have extra kings. So now we're going to talk a little bit about what these pieces are worth. And in chess, we don't get points for capturing pieces per se, but we do give these pieces a value so that we know which pieces are worth more than others. Okay, so again, these points, you don't have to keep score or anything, but these points that I'm going to talk about will help you know if you're about to make a good or a bad trade, if you're going to lose a piece for another piece. So the pawn, we're going to say, is worth 1 point. Okay, this is a relative point value. So the pawn is worth 1 point. The knight is worth 3, and so you consider it if you have a knight and you're going to and a move that you're about to make is going to capture your opponent's pawn, but you're going to lose your knight in the meantime. It's not a good trade because the knight is worth more, and it's worth more because it has better attacking abilities and things like that. It's more valuable to you in your game. And a bishop, we're also going to say, is worth 3. The knight and the bishop are about the same. There's some debate in this in the chess world. Some in certain game situations, a knight is better to have than a bishop, and in some game situations, a bishop is better to have than a knight. And we'll talk about some of that in future lessons, in some of the intermediate lessons. But in general, it's okay to trade knights for bishops or bishops for knights. They're worth about the same. The next piece is a rook. This one is worth a little bit more. So again, here you don't want to give up a rook if what you're gaining is a knight, bishop, or pawn. That would not be a good trade. Okay. And then the queen is worth 9 points. So the queen definitely is your best piece on the board. You don't want to give that piece up for anything, except maybe the other queen. And the king we don't assign a value to. It doesn't mean it's 0. It just doesn't have a value. And the reason we don't do that is the whole point of us assigning values is so you know when it's okay to trade a piece, or so you know kind of how you're doing in the game. If the king's not on the board, it's irrelevant. This is the only piece that really matters. This is the one that if it gets trapped, you lose the game. Okay, and now for the starting position. This is what the starting position looks like in chess. So if you have a chessboard in front of you, I'd encourage you to get it out and try to set the pieces up this way. This is what you'll see. One thing to keep in mind before you start putting those pieces out is always remember the white on the right. So you see this player has a white square in the right corner, and the player that would sit over here also has a white square in his right corner. So another thing to keep in mind is that the king and the queen go in the center, but you determine which goes where by the color of the square. So the queen, think of it as she always gets her way. So the queen always goes on her color. So the light queen goes on the light square, and the dark queen goes on a dark square. The king will go immediately next to it. The bishops on either side of them, the knights on either side of them, and the rooks on both corners, and the pawns out in front. Okay, and all these pieces oppose one another. If you're sitting down, if you have a labeled board with A through H and 1 through 8, then if you're the white player, you should be able to read A through H from left to right, just like you'd read a book. If you're the darker pieces, you should read that H through A from left to right. Okay, so let's take what we learned from the prior slide and apply it here. So I want you to look at this starting position and think about what piece is missing. So we're going to go through a few of these. Feel free to pause the slides as we do. So again here, what pieces are missing from this board? Okay, the answer is the queens. The queens go here. Remember, the darker queen would go on the darker square, and the lighter queen would go on the lighter square. Okay. And now for this one, what pieces are missing? Again, pause your video. And the pieces that are missing are your rooks. You've got Here on A8, you're missing a dark rook, and on H8, you're missing a dark rook, and on A1 and H1, you're missing light colored rooks. Okay, and here, again, here's where you pause your video, decide what pieces are missing. Okay, the answer is the knights. The knights are missing. The dark knights go here at B8 and G8, and B1 and G1. It's for the light colored knights. And again, pause your video here. See if you can determine which pieces are missing. The pieces that are missing are the bishops. Dark colored bishops here at C8 and F8, light colored at C1 and F1. And there are a lot of pieces missing from this board. So hopefully, pause your video. Hopefully you get this one. The pieces that are missing are the pawns. You're missing all the white pawns and all the dark pawns. This is on the 7th rank and the 2nd rank. Okay, thank you so much for joining us. I hope you enjoyed learning about a few chess facts, about the chessboard and about the pieces. Please be sure to tune in to lesson IC02 for the second part of the Introduction to Chess series. Thanks so much.